Welcome to another Garry Kitchens Game Maker tutorial. Today's game is a classic game for the Atari 2600. We're going to recreate the game Outlaw. Yeah. So you keep watching, and it's going to be good. I'm going to show you how to make your own Outlaw clone. Yeah. Just don't tell anyone. I want to do this. First thing I want to do is make your first sprite. So I'll go to setup, and then I'll change my sprites to, just one sprite. Change the color to single. Next, I want to change both the vertical and the horizontal magnifications on. Now it's time to draw our sprites. We got to do it really fast because I don't want to make this video take forever, so I sped it up a little bit. Okay, frame 1 is done now. Let's go over here and change it to frame 2, and we're going to draw our sprite again, but just a little differently. Now let's see how our guy animates. Command animate from frame 1 to frame 2, 25. Let's make him go a little faster. Oh, now he's going really fast. Well, let's save this. File, save. Make sure your disk is in. We're going to call this guy L-Man because he's facing left. Now let's change the color of L-Man. Try yellow. Frame 1, we're going to flip this guy. Now let's go to frame 2. And we're going to flip this guy. If you want to animate him, see, you can make him walk. And this is the yellow guy. He's facing the other way. Let's save this. Instead of L-Man, R-Man, because he's facing right. To clear this, go to Command, Clear, choose Yes, and it's gone. Let's do another sprite. Go to Setup, choose Single, turn on vertical and horizontal magnification. The little square box shows you where your sprite is. Now let's draw our sprite. This is a sprite of a guy kneeling, getting ready to shoot his little gun. Now let's save our guy. File, save. We're going to call this RMANS for squatting, I guess. Now what we're going to do, we're going to change the color. And we're going to flip them. Now we're going to say this as LMANS. Now it's time to make the bullets. So I'm going to put 3 little dots here at the end of his gun. And the rest of this guy's body I'm going to just delete. This way the bullet will line up with our guys when we shoot later on in the game. Now let's change our bullet from green to white. And then we're going to go up and save this. I'm going to call it Bull R. After I save this, I'm going to go over here and go Command, Flip, and I'm going to flip the bullet to the other direction so it'll line up with our other sprite. So I don't have to do it over and over again. And I'm going to save it as Bullet L for bullet left. This will be player 2's bullet because he faces left. Now for the wagon. Go up to Setup. Choose Single. Turn on vertical and horizontal magnification. We're going to leave our sprites arranged in this pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now it's time to draw our wagon. Oh, here it goes. Let's change the sprite 2 now. Let's change the sprite 3. Now we're going to change the sprite 4. Now that we're done, we're going to save this as Wagon 1. Yes. Welcome to our scene maker. This is where we make our scenes for the game. If I go to full screen, look, I made this white border that goes all around. And then I have player 1 and player 2 up here. That's where we're going to put our scores. What do you think of that? If you don't know how to use a scene maker, I'll put a little over here maybe. I'll put one of those little tags up there so you can click on it for a video. Alright, let's go to the next one, the sound maker. Welcome to the sound maker. On the sound maker, you just take these little knobs and you change the values. When you change the values, it makes a different sound. Try copying my values off my board, and then you can play that same sound. Also, there's little frames over here. You can change the frames, like frame 1 and frame 2, kind of like in the sprite maker. When you're done, you can go over here, and you can play the sound. Yeah, you can hear it. Yeah. So this first sound is called, I'm going to save it as backswish or whatever. I can't spell it, but you'll see it in the thing. So now let's go to the next sound. This next sound, we need to sound like a shooting sound when we shoot our gun. That sounds good. I recommend you pause the video and write down these values and put them in your own sound maker. Now we're going to save this as SHO3S. This next sound has 2 frames, frame 1 and frame 2. It animates kind of like our sprites animate. So jot down these values if you want. But let's go listen to that sound. What does it sound like? Interesting. Well, let's say this sound as BBSLID. That sounds good. Now let's get ready to code. Now that we have our sprites made, and our scene made, and our sounds made, let's do a little coding here. Ooh, I like the sound of that. We're going to start off with our first coding command. We're going to go up to this little command box here. That's where you find our codes. And we're going to find where it says scene 1 is... Oh yeah, and before you click on it, make sure that your disk that you saved your scene on it is in the drive. Otherwise, it'll go into an error. Well, let's make it Outlaw. That's our scene. It looks like this. Our Outlaw game is going to be a 2-player game, so we need to have 2 different scores. So let's find score number 1, and we're going to tell it where to put it. Now I'm going to tell the computer to display our score at row 1, column 0. Row 1 is up and down, column 0 is left and right. It'll be right here in the corner. Now let's go up and grab the command score 2. We're going to put that at row 1, column 14. So this will put player 2's score in the upper right corner. Can't you see? Well, moving on here, let's put our first sprite in here. Let's go up to the command box, and we're going to choose the command sprite1 is... it's hard to find sometimes. Did you know if you go to the right, there's a little tab you can bring down so you can find your stuff easier? Oh, now, where's sprite1 is? Oh, there it is. We're going to load the sprite that we made called Wagon. The sprite Wagon is actually 4 different sprites. You can tell by the dashes on them. Here, let me move this up. They may all be grouped together as one sprite, but when sprites start hitting sprites later on in the game, it makes a big difference, so keep that in mind. If you made it this far, good! You already demonstrated you know how to use the command box and how to put the commands in the program. Now I'm going to go a little faster to make this video a little shorter. What we're going to do now is we're going to add a Wagon exposition of 68. On the next line, we'll have Wagon 1's Y position 100. That should be right about in the middle. If you hit the run button, you can see. Ha ha! Nice Wagon! Hey! Right down, Grandpa! I want to shoot you! The wagon's in the way! Okay, back to our coding. Now that's all fine and dandy, but we want our wagon to move, especially when our guys are shooting at each other. We have to have a direction to move, so we'll start off with direction 000, which is up, and then we have to tell it the movement speed of, let's say, 25. That's not too fast, that's not too slow. Well, we need our player sprite, our little cowboy guys out there shooting. We're going to say sprite 5 is R-Man. And R-Man, sprite 5, we need to have an X position. We'll go X position 30. And then we'll go Y position 130. That's kind of in the middle-ish, sort of on one side. And don't forget, player 2 also needs to have his cowboy gunslinger guy too. So we're going to make sprite 6. Will be L-Man, because he's the guy who's facing left. We're running out of room. I gotta move this up here. Now, where were we? Alright, where were we again? Oh yeah, Sprite 6, which is player 2. Sprite 6's X position needs to be 137. And then Sprite 6's Y position needs to be 130, because you have to put it somewhere on the board, at least to begin with. I'm gonna hit run quick, just to make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. How about that? He's right where he's supposed to be. Watch the wagon. And then player 2, yeah, he's right where he's supposed to be too. Not too far up and not too far down. Don't get hit by the wagon though. Hey, you can walk right through the wagon because we haven't told it to do anything to you yet. But we're working on that. What do you think about it so far? Well, the thing I don't like is our wagon. It comes up from the bottom of the floor and goes to the ceiling and comes up to the floor again. I want it to go up. And then when it gets to a certain height, go back down again. Up and down. You know why? Because it's too easy for me to go over and bonk Grandpa on the head, boom, or something like that. I want it so you can't really get through very well because you hit that wagon. So what we're going to do, we need to keep track of where the wagon is, the Y position of the wagon. So we need a variable. So our next command, we're going to set E to wagon 1's Y position. So wherever the wagon is, it's going to be called E. Write that down on a piece of paper. Next thing you want to do, we have to start a loop so it keeps refreshing this. So put a little tag over here called 1001. We're going to jump back to this. Our next line, if E is greater than 140. Well, what is 140? A Y position starts from the top, and as it goes down and down lower, the number gets bigger. So 140 is way down here. When it's greater than 140, we're going to have it make the direction of our wagon go up. So if it's greater than 140, wagon 1 direction will be up. But when it gets too high, what am I going to do? Well, I'll just go, if E is less than 95, then the wagon direction is going to be down, down. So I'll keep going up and keep going down, and up and down. And you're trying to get across this wagon, and you can't because it keeps going up and down. It's like, oh, I get in my way. And you have to shoot around it like boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Well, what do you think of that? On to the next one. Just a little note here. When you're done telling the computer a command to do, such as E is greater than 140 or less than 195, add an and if when you're done telling it what to do. I'm going to move this up here. Now we're going to get ready to set up the joystick controls. See this blue letters up here? Those are just labels. They have nothing to do with the program. It just helps me as a programmer to know where I am in my program. If you choose to add a comment or a label, just go to the command box and choose comment. Okay, let's set up the joystick. If joystick 1 is up, then we're going to have sprite 5 is going to be R-man. R-man. Sprite 5's direction will be 000, which is up. Sprite 5 animation speed will be 30. Sprite 5's movement speed will be 25. And if means we're done telling it what to do when joystick 1 is up. If joystick 1 is down, sprite 1 is R-man again. Sprite 5's direction is 128 down. This time, R-man goes down. Sprite 5 animation speed is 30 and sprite movement speed is 25. And if joystick 1 is left, then sprite 5 is R-man again. Sprite 5's direction is 192 left and sprite 5 animation speed is 30. Movement speed is 25. And if. Time to move this on up here now. If joystick 1 is right, then sprite 5 is R-man again. Boy, R-man's awful famous. Sprite 5's direction is 64, which is right. Sprite animation will be 30, and sprite movement speed will be 25, and if again. Now I want you to pay attention now, because we're going to do something different when joystick 1 is off. Of course, sprite 5 is going to be R-man again. Sprite 5 animation speed, as you expect, will be 0 because he's not moving anywhere. Sprite 5's movement speed will also be 0. But we're going to not put an and if on here. We're going to add if button 1 is on. So, wait. You're going to say, hey, Charles, I thought you always said to add an and if after the command. Well, we're not done yet. We're going to have if joystick 1 is off and the button 1 is on. They're both at the same time. So in a sense, there's two parts of this command. Ooh, now that's exciting. So what's going to happen if the joystick 1 is off and the button 1 is on? Well, it's time now to get our guy to shoot a bullet out of his gun. Well, we need to know where to put the bullet. So we're going to start to put some variables in. We're going to set A as sprite 5's X position. That's left and right. And set B as sprite 5's Y position, up and down. Now that we know where the A and B are, now we can set sprite 7, which is the bullet, to that position. Now we set our bullet at an X position of A, and we also set our bullet at a Y position of B. We're going to have our bullet, which is sprite 7. The direction will be 64, which is right. The movement speed, we're going to make 86. Well, you know you got to have a sound when you shoot. So sound channel 1, we're going to use Shore 3. That's found on the Garry Kitchens disc. So I think we are done telling the computer what to do if the joystick is off and the button 1 is on. So now how are we going to end this? We need to put 2 and ifs. And if and if once for each command. You want to see if this runs? Well, first we have to temporarily put a jump to label 1001. Why? Because it completes the loop. When we're done, we're going to delete that line. Okay, let's run this. All right, here we go. I can walk back and forth. I can shoot. The only thing is, I can't walk and shoot. I have to stay still because that way I have to aim. Well, it works. Let's go back. Let's move the coding up here. Got to have some room. And we're going to delete the line where it says jump to label 1001. What I want to do now is set up the controller for player 2. So that would be joystick 2. I'm going to put a little label line in here that says set up joystick 2 controls. You don't have to put it in there, but it helps me when I'm looking through my program to see what part of the program I'm at. Now to set up joystick 2. If joystick 2 is up, then sprite 6 is L-man. L-man is a sprite that we made that's facing left. Sprite 6 direction will be up, of course. Sprite animation speed will be 30. Sprite 6 movement speed will be 25. And if joystick 2 is down, then sprite 6 is L-man again. Sprite 6 direction is 128 down. Sprite animation speed is 30. Sprite 6 movement speed is 25. And if. You know, it should be a lot easier if we just copied and paste these and change the values. But anyway, if joystick 2 is left, then sprite 6 is L-man. Sprite 6 direction is 192 left. The speed is 30 and the movement speed is 25. And if joystick 2 is right, then sprite 6 is L-man. Sprite 6 direction speed would be 64 right. The animation speed is 30. The movement speed will be 25. And if. Let's move this up again real quick. So if joystick 2 is off, then sprite 6 is still L-man, but the animation speed will be 0 because it's not going anywhere. And the movement speed is 0 because it's not going anywhere. Also, if button 2 is on, then, well, you got to keep in mind, so joystick 2 is off, but the button is on. So this is what's going to happen if that happens. Well, it's going to set a variable of C is going to be sprite 6's X position. And the variable of D is going to be sprite 6's Y position. Write those down because you don't want to forget them. Now that we know where the variables are, we're going to put a new sprite called bullet R, the bullet that's going right. And that's going to be at X position of C, just like up above, and the Y position of D. Bullet right direction is going to be 192 left, and bullet right's movement speed will be 86. We're going to have a sound channel too, because we got to make that bullet sound like shoot, shore 3, or whatever it is. And if 2 times. Now I'm going to set up what happens if player's 2 bullets hit something. Let's do this. So bullet 1 hits wagon 11, then, wait a second, stop right there before you think. Wagon 11, remember, that is a sprite that's made of 4 different sprites. So we have to tell the bullet to do something on each sprite. So if it hits the first sprite of the 4 sprites, then what's going to happen? It's going to clear our bullet. And if bullet 1 hits See the hyphen? That means it's part of wagon, but it's not the first sprite. Hyphen wagon 2, the second sprite in the wagon. Then it's also going to clear bullet 1. And if bullet 1 hits hyphen wagon 3, the third sprite of our wagon, then it's going to clear bullet 1 again. And if bullet 1 hits hyphen wagon 4, the last sprite in our wagon, then we're going to have it clear. So no matter what, we're going to have it clear our bullet every time it hits that wagon. And if. I'm going to move the text up here a little bit. Do you remember that scene that we made for this game? On the scene, we put this little white border all around the screen. Well, we're going to make it so if this bullet hits this white border, then it's going to clear the bullet. There's other ways you can do it, like if it goes X position so many spaces over, but I think hitting the border sounds good. So the command we're going to put in for this is if bullet 1 hits color 2 or 3, then we're going to clear our bullet 1. And if. Now for the fun part. We need to have something happen if our bullet hits the other player. So if bullet 1 hits sprite 6 is player 1, remember? If you hit sprite 6, then, well, of course we're going to clear the bullet, but we're going to add 10 to the score 1. In this line, we're going to change our sprite to man F. That's that man that falls down. After that, sound channel 1 is going to be a BB slide. You can find that on your Garry Kitchens disc, or you can make your own sound. We're going to pause for 0.03 seconds, just so you can hear the sound. And if. Now let's set up what happens when player 1's bullet hits something. You can almost copy and paste this from the other one. If bullet R, which is sprite 8, hits wagon 11, then clear bullet R. And if bullet R hits hyphen wagon 2, which is the second sprite in the wagon, then clear bullet R. And if bullet R hits wagon hyphen 3, then clear bullet R. And if bullet R hits wagon hyphen 4, clear bullet R. And just like before, if bullet R hits color 2 or 3, then clear bullet R. And if. Alright, here's the good part again. If bullet R hits sprite 5, which is player 2, then clear bullet R. Add 10 to score 2. We're going to change sprite 5 to R man F. That's the one that looks like he's falling down. Sound channel 1 is going to be BB slide. We're going to pause for 0.03 seconds so you can listen to the sound. And if. Now we already told the computer what to do if the bullet hits the border, the white border. But we didn't tell it what to do if our little man hits the border, player 1 or player 2. So I'm going to put a label here, if sprites hit border. If sprite 5 hits color 2 or 3, then remember sprite 5, that was player number 1, right? Well, I don't want to clear my sprite, but I don't want him to go past the border, so I'm going to put him right in the middle where he started off from. So I'm going to have sprite 5 X position at 30, and then sprite 5 Y position at 130, and if. So what about player 2? Well, if sprite 6 hits color 2 or 3, then I want to do the same thing. I'm going to make him go back to 0, you know. So sprite 6, I'll put his X position at 130, and sprite 6 Y position at 130 also. So that's kind of in the middle of the board on his side, of course. And if. Now I'm going to put a couple labels here. What happens if player 1 touches the wagon? Ooh, I never thought about touching the wagon. I could do all sorts of stuff. But for now, let's keep it simple. If sprite 5, which is player 1, hits wagon 11, then sprite 5 X position will be, well, put him back to 44. And sprite 5 Y position, I'll put him at 130. We'll make a sound too. We'll make that back swish sound. And if sprite 5 hits wagon 2, then don't forget there's a hyphen in here because it's the same sprite as sprite 1. Sprite 1, 2, 3, 4 are all the wagon, remember? Okay, so sprite 5, which is player number 1, we're going to just move him back to X position 44 and Y position 130. We're going to play that sound again, back swish. And if sprite 5 hits hyphen wagon 3, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to move to X position 44, Y position 130, and play back swish. And if. And the same again. If sprite 5 hits hyphen wagon 4, then sprite 5 back to 44, Y position back to 130, play back swish, and if. Now let's put a little label here. We're going to talk about player number 2. What happens if player 2 touches the wagon? Well, you can almost just cut and paste the values of player 1 to player 2 here, but here we go. If sprite 6, which is player 2, hits wagon 1, then sprite 6, we're going to make their X position as 130, their Y position as 130, and play back swish. And if sprite 6 hits wagon hyphen number 2, then we're going to make the X position at 130, the Y position at 130, and we're going to play back swish. And if sprite 6 hit wagon 3, or hyphen 3, then we're going to do the same thing. The X position at 130, the Y position at 130, we're going to play back swish. We're going to end if player 6 hits hyphen number 4, then we're going to put the X position at 130, the Y position at 130, play back swish, and if. And the last thing we need to do is start our loop by jump to label 1001. And after that, we're ready to go. You ready to play it? Let's see if it works. Player 1 moves up and down easy enough. I can even shoot. Darn it, I missed. Well, I'm going to try the other joystick and see if the other guy works. Oh, he shoots too. But that darn wagon, it keeps getting in my way. At least I know it stops the bullets. Let's try the other joystick. Ha ha ha, I'm going to shoot you. Bang. Ha ha ha, 10 points. Bang, 20 points. Ha ha, this is pretty cool. Swapping the joysticks again and bang. Ha, look at my score, 10 on the player 2 score. Yeah, now let's swap again. Now I'm going to see if I can walk my guy underneath this wagon here without getting knocked back. Ooh, I gotta go under it. Maybe if I go, how about over? Get out of my way. This darn wagon's in my way. It's hard to get under the, I almost made it. It was so close. Now that we know our game works, we need to make a disc that will boot independently from Garry Kitchens so we can play it right off the Commodore 64. So why don't you click on File here, and then go down. From here, if you choose, you can print out the program on a piece of paper so you can look at it later, or you can make a disk, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to make a bootable disk. So click on Make a Disk. Next thing it wants to know is who's the owner of this game. Well, put your name in. Charles Fatt, that's my name. Now type in the name of your game. We'll call ours Outlaw. Oh, and one more thing. Before you click yes, make sure you put in a blank disk because it's going to format or initialize your disk, and you don't want to erase your original disk. Good thing I told you that. Then click yes. This process takes a long time, but when it's finished, all you have to do is turn off the computer, then turn it on, and then type in LOAD, quote, star, quote, comma 8, comma 1, enter. And we're going to run it. The loading process on a Commodore 64 takes a long time, so I'm going to speed it up to where the game starts. It takes about a minute. This program was designed by Charles Fatt using Garry Kitchens Game Maker. Going to get them. Going to get them. Going to get them. And there you have it. Your own Outlaw game for the Garry Kitchens Game Maker. I would add more stuff to it, like bullets bouncing off the walls and everything, but around out of time. I'm 30 minutes into this video already. Why don't you just leave a comment below and tell me what you think? Why don't you try modifying the code? I'll put the code in a link too. Well, until then, happy coding. See you later.